And the moment I made that peace with the idea of dying, that fear didn't have control over me anymore. Hello and welcome. My name is Chimizi. Today I'm talking about my health again. And if you've watched my previous health video, you would have heard me talk about the decision that I made a year ago to get my health right. And this journey is still ongoing. It hasn't been smooth sailing, but for the most part, it's been alright. But there are a few bumps there. When I say bumps, what I mean by that is a few scary turn of events there that I shared some of that last time, and this time you could call this part 2. In that journey of running tests, just going to see what's going on with me, with my blood levels and all that stuff, there was something that had been going on for years that I had purposely ignored. You know, sometimes some of us believe that if you ignore it, it'll go away, but it doesn't necessarily go away. So if you don't take anything else away from today, just take that away. It doesn't go away because you don't, because you ignore it. For your peace of mind, just check it out. What's the worst that can happen? You know that there's a problem. Chances are you're already worried that there's a problem. So go check it out. Give yourself that power in knowing what's going on, or if everything is okay. So as I continue to run all these tests, go and do all these examinations with different, with my GP and specialists. If you haven't watched the previous health talk, a GP is a general practitioner. They're a doctor who basically looks after everything, and they would normally refer you to specialists if they think there's something that needs extra attention. The time that I'm going and running all these tests, this is 2023. There was something that had been happening since maybe 2018, 2019 that I'd just been ignoring. As you know, as women, we are encouraged to check our breasts to make sure that we're on top of the health of our breasts. And so in the shower, as most of us would do, you would raise your hand and then you would feel all around just to see if there's any lumps, anything unusual that you're feeling as you check your breasts. And for years, for at least 4 years, maybe even more, I've been feeling a lump on my left breast anytime that I checked it. It didn't hurt, there was no pain, nothing at all. It was just there. And for months, it would come and go and come and go and come and go. So sometimes I would feel it, sometimes I wouldn't, and then a lot of time would pass and then it would return and I'll start feeling it again. And I just kept ignoring it, never went to get it checked out or anything. And so that year when I decided that I wanted to get my health right, it seemed to be persistent and it wasn't going away as it did intermittently before. This time it just stayed. And at some point in this entire journey with my health, it really started to bother me, and it actually bothered me to the extent that I got really scared. And I was thinking to myself, maybe it's time to go and see a doctor about this. But I was so gripped with fear. I remember one day, this was in June, early June, I'd gone to church. I was pretty late to church that day because I'd had such a busy day the day before. I rocked up very late, and by the time I got to church, the preacher was already preaching. I saw a friend of mine sitting outside, and I was sitting at the foyer, and I just decided to hang with her. She had her baby with her, and so I just sat there with her. And at some point she looked at me and she asked me, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" The weight of this, and I'd already started thinking I need to go and talk to the GP about this. The weight was so heavy on me. I told her no, everything was not okay, and she asked me if I wanted to share, and I told her no, maybe later. And the reason that I couldn't share with her at that point was I knew that once I started speaking, I would burst out crying, I would bawl, and the service was almost over. I didn't want people to come out to the foyer and just see her all in tears. But even more than that, I knew that there was such a strong fear gripping me in that moment, that anything that came out of my mouth would have been spoken from a place of fear, and I didn't want that. I wanted to get the upper hand on the situation. I felt like I was in a battle with the devil, with the spirit of fear, and the spirit of fear was trying to overpower me. And if I'd said anything at that point, I would have been given more power to that spirit. And I told her no, that I would let her know later, that when I'm ready to talk about it, I'll let her know. And so that day I went home, just kept thinking about this and praying about it. And then I remember one day I was on my couch right here in my living room. I was on the couch, I was lying down, and at that point I knew that I needed to take control of this fear and stop it from getting a hold of me. And I remember just lying down and crying out to God and saying, God, if you want me to die at 40. That's how scared I was. I was so afraid that this could be cancer, I could die from it, or I could go through all these treatments, chemo and all of that stuff. I was so afraid, and I just, at that point, I just made peace with the idea of dying. And the moment I made that peace with the idea of dying, that fear didn't have control over me anymore. But I still couldn't call my friend to tell her what was happening, so instead I sent her a voice note. And I told her, this is what's happening. I know that I do need to see a doctor about this, and I would like you to keep me accountable. I'm going to call my GP this week and make an appointment. And please keep me accountable to make sure that I make that call and book that appointment. And of course she called me and she encouraged me, so, oh, why are you talking about death? You're not dying, you're too young and all that. And as much as I heard what she was saying, and I knew it was coming from a place of really believing for me that nothing bad would come of it, I knew that I still had to face the reality that death could be possible. But that week I made that call, booked the appointment with my GP, and then I was the one who told my friend. The moment I made the appointment, the next thing I did was to contact her to say I'd make the appointment. And so I went to my GP and I told her what the symptoms were, and she poked around a little bit and she said, okay, need to refer you to do an ultrasound, and you might need to do a biopsy as well, depending on what they find. And so about a couple weeks later, went, did the ultrasound, and the results came back. It was so, that ultrasound experience was so, when I think about it now, it is a little bit funny to me, because when I got into the room, there was a lovely lady there who helped me do the ultrasound, and she was finding so many lumps and so many things. And as she found them on the screen and she labeled them, I started counting with her. It was so funny, but I got into that point because I dealt with that spirit of fear. Anything else that came out of that, I was okay with it. I wasn't afraid anymore. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how many have you found here? And she's counting like something like 20 different lumps that are growing, but I could only actually feel one, which was the biggest one, but the other ones seemed to be very small, yeah. And so did one breast, did the other breasts, I think found a few more, maybe at least half what was found on the left side, she found on the right side. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. But she looked at it and she said that she didn't really think they were cancerous, but that she would refer to the doctor, and then the doctor would advise whether they want to do a biopsy. Long story short, they asked me to come back for a biopsy, which, oof, it hurt a little bit. It was, yeah, it was an unpleasant experience. Thankfully they numbed the area, so it's made it easier for me to bear it, but there was, yeah, the pressure as the syringe went and was trying to find the lump to take some sample out of it, some tissue, I reckon. That was a little bit uncomfortable. Well, got that done, and then the results came back maybe a couple of weeks later, saying they're not cancerous lumps, they're benign, no cause for alarm. I'm no more likely to have cancer as compared to someone who doesn't have those lumps. Everything checks out okay. just need to do another scan in 6 months to make sure to see if they're getting bigger, if there's more of them appearing. I did the scan, a repeat scan 6 weeks later, everything still checked out okay. Maybe found an additional 2 or so, something like that, but nothing to be concerned about. And yeah, I'm so thankful. I know that there's lots and lots of women who go through health issues like cancer, whether it's breast cancer, ovarian cancer. There's lots of these cancers out there, and I don't take it lightly that my own tests came out negative. I'm so grateful to God for it. My challenge to you is, if there's something that's happening that you're afraid of, check it out. If nothing else, it just gave me peace of mind knowing what was happening inside of me. And I'm grateful that I made that decision, and my friend having a friend helped to keep me accountable to go and check out that aspect of my health, because that's so important. It's so important that we're doing that. Again, if you haven't had a health checkup in some time, please go do so. If you've had one, I hope things are well with you. If they are not, I'm praying for you, and I'm praying that you have support around you as you go through the challenges that you're going through. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know these are uncomfortable conversations, but I'm hoping that sharing some of my story will empower you to take action for yourself, and maybe even share your story as well. So if you've had any of those health scares or any stories at all about your health and in ways you've been dealing with them that you'd like to share, please feel free to leave a comment. And again, I'm standing with you in prayer. Keep shining. Thank you so much for being here today. Remember, you are valued, you are loved, and you are capable of extraordinary things. Until next time, take care, stay true to yourself, and keep shining brightly. Bye.